Welcome to the HR Empowerment Podcast, where we will uncover strategies and new insights from HR professionals who discuss up-to-date regulations, best practices, and the most pressing topics like diversity and equity, leadership, dealing with difficult situations, and much more that affect your bottom line and business. Thanks for joining us.
Hey everybody, Wendy Sellers here, the HR lady. Welcome back. We are here talking about the Beekeeper's Guide to Transformative Leadership. And I want to welcome back Katie and Mike. Hi, how you doing?
Hi, Wendy. Good to be here with you.
Where are you guys calling in from?
So I'm in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
I'm in Florida.
All right. I live in Florida and I grew up in Pennsylvania. So I know
I love that.
Completely different weather areas for sure.
They sure are. They sure are.
So, but you know what they do have in common? Bees. Everybody has bees, right? So tell me a little bit more about, your the Beekeeper's Guide to Transformative Leadership, and specifically about, the art of being proximal and enhancing team growth.
Yeah. So when Katie and I, sat down in that Chicago pizza restaurant and mapped out our book, one of the first things we wrote down was the word proximal. And if you think about, that term, what it means really is center, closest to the heart. And so we wanted to kind of inspire people to think about how they can place themselves at the center of people's growth, just like the bees do, because they're responsible for all things growth around us. And, we have to effectively do that at the tri-level of leadership. And Katie and I were thinking through, how do we do this at the individual level, like choosing who and how you want to be, but also surrounding yourself with people and partners and growth partners that will help you see things differently and welcome diversity of thought and voice. And that's kind of at that team or group level. And then organizationally, how do we make sure that the environment's right for people to bring their diverse opinions, the diverse thoughts, their diverse ideas to work? And that's really the responsibility of the leader. And so this art of learning to be proximal is really a way for individuals to position themselves when they're leading teams or individually to just, show up with others' focus and others in mind. And that's an important concept of the book. And we see that illuminated throughout the Beekeeper. Katie, anything to add?
Yeah, Mike, so well said. And, something, Wendy and JC, that we talk a lot about when we're working with adults is what's harder for adults than learning is unlearning. And so when we're practicing this art of learning to be proximal, we're keeping learning and unlearning central, right? Because what got us here won't necessarily get us there. We can think about how we change as leaders, how we show up, how we prioritize energy, how we influence the people around us. And it's easy for us to get stuck in habits, right? In the way that we've always done it. And so there's a place here, and we encourage readers through the book that each book chapter is a be mindset. And so when we think about something like be messy, right? People are like, I don't want to be messy, but sometimes the most innovative and creative things happen when we lean into the messiness. And so there's lens check moments for us, not always to run away or react, but to lean in with curiosity and say, what can I learn from this? Or how can I understand this different? Or what's a different perspective, right, that I might have in this space of keeping learning and growth central to everything we do.
I love it. Be messy.
Leaders who practice proximity-based leadership, engaging closely and regularly with their teams, are 3.5 times more likely to see improved team performance and employee satisfaction. Back to you.
What are your thoughts on that, Katie?
Yeah. So when we think about employee, satisfaction, I think that there's a place of like, are we paying attention to our people, right? Are we thinking about the hive that we're creating, right? And that culture and opportunity for people to thrive. Again, it goes back to that space of how are we getting off autopilot, right? And really thinking about where are the obstacles, right, in the way of our people doing their great work. And effective beekeepers are able to do that, right? Remove the obstacles from the hive or the environment to think about how they could, right, go out and naturally do their work to help people grow. Mike, do you want to add anything there?
No, so well said. And I think it's a very self-reflective moment for leadership. One of the other B mindsets in the book is be vulnerable, right? And so I think really for people to encourage that growth that JC just mentioned. They have to show up vulnerably with their authentic selves to create that environment where people feel, safe, and where people feel like they can bring their best selves to work and perform at a high level. And everybody does come into, work or on a team with their own individual B mindsets and how they want to be. And we have to welcome that. And I think that's where performance optimization really gets impacted, when we allow for that.
I have a question. You were mentioning, Katie, just about like removing obstacles. How do we even determine what the obstacles are?
So Wendy, I'm going to tell you a story that always just blows people's minds. And after our book hit Wall Street Journal bestseller, we decided to go back to one of the hives for one of the beekeepers who became mentors to us. And we're like, we want to gift her a book, we'll visit, we'll thank her for all of her insights and wisdom. And when we got there, she was like, well, come out and see my girls. That's how she references her bees, right? She's like, come on out to the hive, see my girls, right? Let's go visit. So we got all suited up, right? We went out to the hive, and she starts pulling out the panels in the hive, and she's realizing that the queen is not producing. And she's kind of frantically looking, right? Saying like, she's just not laying eggs, right? This is kind of concerning. And we got to the last panel, and she's like, oh, there she is. And she picked the panel up. We see hundreds of bees, kind of swarming together. And she picks the queen up and she squashes her. And she drops her to the bottom of the hive. And I see your faces and your eyes kind of bugging, right? As you're saying, Mike and I had the same reaction. And we were like, what just happened? And she said, well, she becomes toxic to the hive. And so it's up to me to make that hard decision to remove any toxicity. If I were to leave her at this point in the season, we're going into winter, she's not producing, thousands of bees would be dead when I come back after winter. And so part of my job as the beekeeper is to remove those obstacles, the toxicity, the things that are hindering growth. And so by dropping her to the bottom of the hive, her pheromones send off a scent that keep the bees safe, feeling safe. And so she then combined hives, right? She moved a hive over with another hive so that they can, kind of get a new queen and then survive through the winter. And so, the learning here is that in organizations, sometimes we have to make hard decisions to remove toxicity, right? Or people or things that are hindering growth for all. And oftentimes we forget or we find challenges in making those quick, tough decisions, right? To be able to remove those obstacles. But it was a great lesson for Mike and I as we experienced it, that were like so powerful and so relevant, right? As we think about this.
I'm so glad I asked that question. Thank you so much. That was just amazing. We're going to wrap up session 2 here. In our next episode, we're going to be talking about pollinating success. We are also going to be talking about strategies for transformative growth. So tune back in to episode 3. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for joining the HR Empowerment Podcast, brought to you by Aurora Training Advantage. We hope you've gained new insight and strategies to navigate the HR profession. We look forward to you joining us again on the HR Empowerment Podcast.